Okay, everybody, so today is the 19th of February, and tomorrow is the 20th. So let's welcome you all to the PSP Automate session. So thank you very much, first of all, for the team at Automate for inviting us. Can't thank you guys enough. We always love coming on these things and speaking to the members. So a very big thank you to everybody back behind the scenes. They're the guys that really make this thing happen. So first of all, you've got myself, Mike Austin, Sales Director from PSP. I've been in the industry for 25 years now. I know it doesn't look like I have, but I can promise you I feel like I have. This is Chrissie. Chrissie, Business Development Manager at PSP Logistics. Chrissie's been with PSP for probably nearly 10 years now. So between the two of us, we sort of know what we need to know about the logistics scene. PSP, sorry, I'm going to give you a little bit about PSP first of all. This isn't an oversell, this is just to give you a bit of an idea of who we are and how we're involved with Automate. So PSP, we are a freight forwarding company that was established in '98. We have two warehouses down in Fareham now, with the head office being where we are now at 24 Brunel Way.
And we've got Hampshire Pallets in Fareham.
Ooh. Got that, yeah, and Hampshire Pallets as well. So we've got 3 warehouses. I do apologise. So the HQ, this is where we're sat now, outside the warehouse. That's actually Chris's car there, I think, as well. So you've got the offices, packing, storage, pick and pack. There's a little bit about PSP and the services that we offer. I'm sure you'll get a copy of the presentation afterwards. So do you know what? I'll let you guys read it, digest it at your own time. And if there's anything that you need or any help, give us a shout. So first of all, let's kick off. Let's get into the EU. So a lot of you guys are probably thinking Brexit. It happened, what, 4 years ago now, and we're still having issues. So 5 years ago, was it? Okay, so what we wanted to do is just try and break this down into small-sized chunks that are digestible for anyone, really, to see what's going on. You're probably still getting questions about documents and procedures that are still happening to this day, and nobody really tells you what they're about. So let's try and rack through these in a very easy kind of way. So first of all, the PVA scheme. PVA scheme, for anybody that doesn't know it, it's called Postponed VAT Accounting. This is designed for any of the UK companies to save on cash flow. It allows you to postpone paying VAT for all the goods coming into the UK from the EU without paying the VAT immediately. You can offset them against your returns. So what does that mean? You haven't got to pay customs, and that you have to literally go onto a portal and then you can do it on your VAT returns, whether it will be every 4 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whatever you guys do. So the postponed VAT accounting is something that I would suggest anybody who isn't doing it, do it. It means that you don't have to pay the money up front. Customs clearances procedures. Okay, so this is an interesting one because people always think, well, Mike, there's customs clearances, but what are they? What does it mean? Well, anytime that you do shipments with the EU, and this could be actually from anywhere in the world, there's always 2 customs clearances, okay? There's one leaving a country, and there's always one coming in the country. So if you're selling to Europe, you have to do an export customs clearance, and then you have to do an import customs clearance at the other end. And it's in reverse on the way back. So you always need a broker at both ends. Now, some people don't like that. That's just the rules, okay? So if you don't have an export clearance, your goods will not leave. And we are now seeing a lot more of a power of attorney sort of equivalent of importer of record. So if people want you to sign up to say that you're allowed to do it. EORI numbers. Okay, so EORI numbers, it stands for Electric Organisation Reference Index. I'm sure if anybody knows if it's not correct, let me know. That is your exporter number, okay? That is going to be the most important thing that you'll see on any transaction with Europe. So you'll need an export EORI number, and more importantly, if you're going to Europe, you'll need an import EORI number. You cannot clear the goods without these two numbers, okay? So whether or not you're buying or you're selling, you'll need two EORI numbers, one for origin and one for destination. Very important that you know that, because if you ship to a destination and they don't have an EORI number, you can have your goods stuck. Therefore, they might not get delivered and there will be fines and there'll be storage. So EORI numbers, always check that you have two EORI numbers. Tariffs. Tariff is still zero duty. All European goods coming into the UK, still 0% duty, providing they are EU origin. How long is that going to stay for? It all depends on who's doing what deals. I mean, everybody's out there at the moment looking for a deal. Chrissie, you're looking for a deal as well, aren't you? You're always looking for a deal. But at the moment, 0% duty. Now, this is where it gets very complicated. And I don't want to go too deep on these because I could spend hours going through the different terms and different scenarios. But if you were to import goods into the UK that are Chinese origin, and then you send them to Germany, you will have to pay the duty twice. Okay, now you're saying, Mike, but that's not fair. Well, speak to the person that left the EU. That's their problem. No, I'm joking. No, you can send them in transshipment, and there is the thing called a free port, which will be coming, which is going to allow us to transit goods through the UK. But at the moment, it's very much of everyone's getting paid, going to pay twice. Everybody wants their VAT, everyone wants their duty, okay? So just be careful if the goods are coming in from China, but then you're sending them to Europe, there will be duty, and your customers probably won't want to pay that duty. So that's where you'll end up in a bit of a fight. VAT costs at the moment, 20%. Again, that could change. 20% is the standard. Across Europe, it can vary between 19 to 21%. VAT needs to be paid upon import. Whether you pay it up front with your PVA scheme, or whether or not you postpone it, or whether you just pay it when to the customs when it arrives, VAT still needs to be paid, okay? So any transaction will need to be paid VAT whether you're going in or you're out. And then we're coming on to the last three, which is tariff changes, code changes. Sorry. So every tariff code has a duty rate that could change. Who knows what it will be, but it could drastically go from 0% to 10%. Please keep an eye on what your product is. And if you are shipping and you're not sure you're using the right product or paying the right duty, drop us a message. We'll happily check your VAT. We'll check your tariff codes. A lot of people are using a tariff code that's so high when it doesn't need to be, especially for unfinished goods, because there's certain products that are duty-free. So just be on top of the ball with that one. Quotas, we know they're coming. Do we know what they're going to put quotas on and excise duty on? Well, all I can guarantee you is if anything is to go by what's happening in the past, they're going to put it on all the stuff that we use and all the stuff that we like. So everything will probably hit us all in the pocket, but let's hope they do the sensible thing and that, you know, that as far as trade goes, that they allow people, the companies, to be able to trade between the two. So that's pretty much what's happened after Brexit. So you can see that not a lot has really happened apart from there's more paperwork. The customs clearances procedures could take more time. You've now got this 20% VAT that somebody has to pay, but do I have to pay it or who pays it? And there is a potential that there could be duties. So that's pretty much a snapshot of what's happened. Now, going forward, what can we expect? Well, I would imagine that they're probably going to keep it duty-free for as long as they can until somebody, America, maybe does a deal with the EU, or maybe we do a deal with the US. That could force someone's hands, but yeah, at the moment, we don't really know. So especially for this year, for 2025, they're going to be your main points, okay? So if you're dealing with the EU, use that as a check sheet. You won't go far wrong, and you certainly won't be getting held up and you won't be getting delays if you follow those simple points with buying to and from the EU. So I would welcome questions later on. If anybody has anything, then obviously please drop it in the chat or contact Chrissie or myself a bit later on. So that's pretty much what we're talking about the EU. Now, what are we talking about with America, with China? Now, this is something that no one really knows. Okay, so the one thing in the shipping world at the moment is there's this big fight between the USA and China about who is doing what and who's going to be charging duty on certain products. Now, we were looking earlier on today, and there's a massive imbalance between the UK's import and exports. And I didn't realise it was so far out. You know, we spend £42 billion a year more on import material than we do export. The UK has very much become reliant on buying overseas goods, but we don't really sell a lot of physical products. I think it's mainly services now that we're selling. So we are in that situation where we're heavily reliant on our supply chain and goods from China. So the fallout between China and America, what does that mean? It could mean that we'll get a lot more coming our way, which means we could be attracting better rates, better shipping rates, for instance. We could be getting more supply. The shipping lines might be coming in. So this America to China difficulties, these are things that are happening right now. Now, anyone that's dealing with anybody in the China, but we're seeing this in the EU, okay? So this isn't just America. It doesn't just apply to them. So we are seeing lots of delays. And why is that? Because the shipping lines are taking away services. They're changing their routes. They're changing their ports. So what does that mean is that our containers don't arrive on time. It means that we've got to pick them up from other places. What does that mean to you guys? Well, if you're buying it from China, you're probably getting hit in the pocket, which is where it hurts the most. So going forward, what we can see is the rates are going to slowly come down. And I think we had a graph, which I don't think it's on this presentation. I think it's on the.
Okay, come
We'll do have a. Hold on a second. So yeah. So from guidance, what can we expect from 25? So I think what we can expect to see is the shipping lines are going to be more. Let's say they're going to become knocking our door for more business, which should allow their shipping rates to come down. But at the moment, we are seeing that the congestions and the ports and everything else are all becoming very congested. So it makes it difficult for them to be able to do it without it actually being cost effective. So, you know, we don't want to seem like we are, as an industry, not as a company, but passing the buck onto sort of shipping lines when really they're the ones that are controlling the ships. You think a shipping line ship holds 30,000 containers. So you think of the cost that it has for all of those and how much it costs to come into each port and how it comes in and gets unloaded and it has to turn around within 12 hours. So you can't blame them for being a bit prudent and actually stepping back for services, but all that does is cause us more hassle with getting space. And what it does is then puts the market rate up because there are people out there that are paying over the odds. We saw that back in the good old days. You remember the COVID days, everyone? Yeah, those days. You know, when we're queuing up outside shops and spending 2 meters apart. Well, a container cost from China to the UK during COVID was £20,000 a container. Yep, 20,000. And why is that? Because the shipping lines were only putting a certain amount of space on and everybody was paying over. It became an auction. Whoever paid the most got the space. So it's taken us pretty much 4 years now to get back down to what a normal rate is. Now, we put in a graph here just as an example for anybody that's importing from China. Now, I know we mentioned about it was meant to be about Brexit and we're talking about the EU, but it's important that anybody in supply chain knows what's further afield, because I can only imagine that everyone's looking to find low cost countries. They're trying to find alternatives to make their product cheaper. But you've got to understand what comes with it. If you're going to manufacture goods further afield, what can we expect? Now, China shipping is it's been very steady and very reliable for 30, 40 years. I mean, we've been importing, not we, but as a country, we've been importing from China. So we're not going to sit here now and say it's broken, but the rates have finally come back down to where a level. If you were to have a look at this graph is a rate over a year. So for anybody that's experiencing dealing with shipping from China already, you'll see that there are certain times of the year where it's cheaper. That's normally after Chinese New Year. So there's normally a dip. Factories are just opening back up. Container rates go down. They want to drive the volumes up. And as you get further down to the year, you'll see just before Christmas, shock horror, busiest time of the year, rates go up. So if you're going to be starting to deal with China, just be mindful that the rates will fluctuate and they will go up and down. And the best way to cope with these kind of situations is that you have to have a figure in your head as an average and ride the wave when it's good, and you're going to have to accept it when it's bad. Now, that's just notoriously been dealing with China. So it's never ideal because it's all right for us to sit here now and go, well, do all your shipping at the first part of the year. We know in an ideal world, people would do that, but we know that's just not the case sometimes. So what can we expect? Going back to what can we expect for 25, and I think this is pretty much what everybody here is looking for. What are we looking for? So you're going to ask me, Mike, what's going to happen to rates? Well, rates are all being done at the moment on a basis of a month. So month to month rolling. But we've seen enough now to know that they're not going to go back up to the 20,000 route. We know that they're going to be around where we are. We've got data now to show that the last year was between, you can see 2,000 is the lowest and probably 3.5 is the highest. So we know that those rates are going to be pretty steady. What's going to happen with customs? Not a lot. I think the customs infrastructure is there. We know what we're doing. Follow your check sheet, which I put on the previous slide. And whatever agent you're using or customs agent, as long as you give them those details, you'll be able to get your goods through without any problems. And as far as other trade lanes go, you know, we know that in the last 5 years, especially in the shipping industry, I say shipping, not sipping, because I've got a bit of a toothache. Don't ask. You know, the lines. I mean, we've had the dreaded COVID. We've had issues with the Middle East. We've had boats stuck in the Suez Canal. There's been conflicts in the Red Sea. You've had, I mean, there's not much we haven't had. We've had boats crashing into Brooklyn bridges. The Americans are always on strike because they want to be paid more. Then they get paid more, and then they go on strike again. Somebody answer that, I don't know. So the shipping world's always going to be one that's going to be eventful. Now, I would suggest if you were asking my advice, what would you do, is give as much planning as you can. I know it's not easy buying a load of stock. People don't want to tie money up. And the just-in-time logistics scenario, it works, but you end up then going down a rabbit hole with air freight, and you end up paying a stupid amount per kilo because stuff gets delayed. So I would just be mindful that there will be delays. Transit times will probably be out every now and then, but I don't think there's anything to panic. I don't think there's anything to worry about. You know, the rate seems stable. There will be more availability. And more important, the good thing can come out of it is that everyone does seem to be talking about trade deals, and they seem to be proactive about international trade, which can only be a good thing for us as a country. So, you know, there's not a million things I would sit here now and tell everybody to worry about. But what I would say is that just try to keep on top of things. Try and keep on top of your paperwork. As far as compliance goes, just make sure that you are selling to the right companies, you're doing your due diligence, and that if you have the right paperwork and the right entries, then you shouldn't have any problems from our friends at HMRC. And that, I think, was it. So that's 20 minutes, everyone. I did say it'd be 2.5 hours. That was a little joke. I always like to start with a little joke, but it's not the same when you can't hear people laughing, or if they are laughing, or if you're still here. They've probably switched off.
Can we see the questions? Are there any questions from anybody?
So let's have a look. Okay, got to stop sharing this now. Oh, there we go.
Do we have any questions?
Oh, there's a hand up somewhere. Look.
Oh.
Oh, there you go. Nick. How do we get Nick on? Don't know. Chrissie?
Double click on it. I don't know.
Sorry, we have used computers before.
We-
We're just. Oh,
Last,
right. The Ultimate team here. We
in
able?
the chat. On the chat.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I can see.
Webinar chat. So if you have any questions, maybe
Oh, please use Q&A chat to answer any questions. Please use Q&A to ask any questions or answer any questions. To ask, please use Q&A chat to ask. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So could you please put your questions in the chat box?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'd love to hear from you all, but
I have got one here. So how far in advance can you book containers?
well, the schedules are normally about every. Oh, you can get up to 2 months in advance. So I would say if you're looking to book a container, 4 weeks is probably the maximum that you can probably book. But you know, you can get containers easy enough. So the more you help your shipping agent or anybody you're using, then you know the more chance you've got of getting. But obviously, sea freight is a lot different to air freight. Okay. And what you can do is air freight, you can book something today and on a flight tomorrow. Containers, they take a bit longer. So just make sure you allow plenty of time to book containers, and especially when it comes from China at busy times, you can do that.
Okay, there's another one just come in from the audience. Are there guidelines for applying for OP and IP?
Okay, so IUP, I'm guessing that's OPR and IPR. OPR and IPR is an interesting one because it's a European law, the OPR and IPR. So it all depends on whether you're doing simplified or if you've got a or if you've got an authorization number. So if I would say if you were doing authorization, you can go on the customs website and they will ask you what you're actually applying it for. I'm guessing in Anita, it's probably going to be for repair goods. That's what I can suggest, unless it was end use. So as far as OPR and IPR, there's up to 6 to 12 months you can get relief, and I would say that you'll be using them for that. Okay, so I hope that's all right, Anita. If you can more get me to know. Okay, next one from Helen. We are having issues requesting for temporary exportation for most freight companies to ship this way. Shippers are requesting ATAs. How long does it take to do that in preparation? Time do you need? Okay, Helen. Yeah. So, temporary export, temporary import. It's a bit of a myth, that one, because there isn't really such a thing as temporary import. There's British returned goods. And there's also, but British returned goods means that the goods have to come in the same state that they went out. So yeah, it all really comes down to the value. Now ATA, I'm guessing ATA carnet. So a carnet can take. So for anyone that doesn't know what an ATA carnet is, a carnet is basically a passport for goods. It allows you to ship goods, not ship goods, through countries without paying VAT and duty because you're not living there, you're not staying there. So if you had an exhibition that was going around Europe and you were going to 5 different countries, the ATA carnet allows you to go in and out of countries without basically going down the red channel. You can go down the green channel. So how long do carnets take? They take about a week to be able to get made. Carnets cost between £600 and £700 a carnet. But there is also what they have a deposit, or you pay an insurance premium. A deposit you get back when the goods come back into the country. So if you had something that was a very high valuable goods, they might want 50% of the value as a deposit, but you'll get that fully back when you hand the carnet back. But you can pay an insurance premium, which would be non-refundable. So most freight companies shipping goods, I mean, carnets are very simple to arrange, very simple to do. You have to get them stamped on export. And it's like your Costa card, really. The more stamps you get on the carnet, the better. Don't get a free coffee, though. But if you don't have all the stamps, you don't get your money back. So it's pretty straightforward, and they're easy to do. But you do need to know a full list of everything that's going in those goods. And if you start mixing and matching with things, it can be quite challenging. So yeah. But Carnes, and to answer your question, Helen, really, Carnes is, and I'm going to say this out loud, but it's a little secret between us all, right? Most companies don't want to do Carnes because it's painful for them. It's a bit of extra work. They don't want to go to customs. They don't want to do this. So some companies probably don't want to do it because it's too much hassle. But, you know, there are companies out there, which I'm sure you'll find one very close. Actually, you probably know a couple of people from them now that would do Carnes shipments. So, yeah, just tell them they have to do it. That's what I would do anyway.
Do you want me to read that out?
No, I've got Nick saying, no, business import only. Hiya, Nick. No export. We import under PVA. Please expand on the definition of the consignee import rate when the VAT goes up and who pays, how the VAT works. I'm sure doing sort of from mechanics. Okay, so Nick, yeah, best practice. Your company is bringing goods in from overseas. So what happens is the consignee in this particular instance will be yourself. The importer of record will be yourself, and you should be paying the VAT. I guess your transaction would then be to another UK company, unless you're selling direct, which then you become a little bit of a murky water there. If you're importing the goods, but then you're sending it directly to the client and they're paying the VAT, then that's where it becomes a bit of a minefield, really. But what we need to do, we need to work out is if you are the importer of record, you are the consignee, you're paying the VAT, and then you're paying the PVA. What happens is you go onto the portal, and it has a record of all the shipments that you've brought in. So when you do your VAT return, as long as you're keeping it under your EORI number, so your business EORI number, then that's what you need to make sure it happens, okay? So the VAT receipt needs to be in the same name as the importer, and it needs to be on the same paperwork. Therefore, if HMRC were to come and have a look or do an audit, you can have a transaction between two companies and the same importers along the way. If you start changing the importer of record and the consignee and the person paying the VAT, that's where, you know, you're opening yourself up a little bit there, but it sounds like anyway, importer record and the VAT goes exactly. So yeah, the VAT doesn't go anywhere. You just offset it against your VAT returns anyway, which I think your accountants will do. And so yeah, and the best practice is always keep a copy of all the paperwork. Make sure that customs entry. And for anybody that's doing imports, it's called a C88. Okay, so the C88 is your proof of import payment. Now that will just tell you whether box 46, I think it is, will tell you whether you've paid it, you've suspended it, or you put it on PVA. So that would be the only document that customs will be interested in if they were to come in and knock your door. They want to say how, and that's all all they want to know is if you've paid it and if you have, how much. So just make sure you keep a copy of all those documents online somewhere or on a cloud. And I don't mean the cloud in the sky, because apparently you can't do that. But that would be my good practice. Good practice would be keeping all those documents and having everything in the same name.
Do we have any other questions?
Oh, we have got, hang on, let's have a look. So we've got Kerry. Okay.
Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Kerry. Are there new lists coming and shipping into France? We have several issues of goods being returned. French customs can't do requests. Kerry, me and you are going to be friends forever. Do you know that? You know why? Because we have the same problems with France too. Now, are there new legislations coming in? No. I've got to be very careful here that I don't upset people in France.
No, don't do that.
No, okay, all right. If I do, just punch me, all right? Don't punch me, you don't have to do that either. Okay, so France, the thing is, Kerry, with European countries, especially like France, and another one would be Germany, is that they don't really know what the legislations are because they change them every time as well. So what happens is, and I'll give you a little story, a little background. When we first decided to leave Brexit, Chrissie and I went to a webinar, and no one really knew in the UK. But when I spoke to our partners in France and in Germany, the first thing they said to us was, That's your problem. That's not our problem. Because everybody in Europe, they felt because we were the ones leaving, that it was our job to sort it out. Well, what they forgot is all goods going into their country, they'd have the same problems. So, new legislation, no. There is nothing new. Do we see new issues coming up every time? Yes, we do. And we still have it to this day where people they come up with things that don't really are. Now, that's why when I come back to the checklist, what I mentioned earlier, if you have a set amount of information, then you don't really open yourself up for them to come back to. What we find is that once you end up in this pattern of going backwards and forwards, especially with French customs, German customs is the same. But funny enough, the only customs that's the most relaxed is the Dutch customs. Don't know why that is. Make your own conclusions on that one. But they do seem a little bit more chilled over there. So the Dutch customs, you can get goods in a lot easier. But the French customs, in the shipping game, Kerry, they are notorious for being, let's say, stubborn. Is that all right? Am I allowed to say stubborn? Or yeah, okay, we'll use that word anyway. But yeah, they do. But when you're saying goods being returned, obviously, I guess that you're trying not to pay the duty because maybe you're sending them back after you've sent them from the UK, maybe. So yeah, they get very funny when you try not to pay any VAT. Let's say that. So I hope that's okay. If you need anything, give me a shout, and I can certainly help you. Nick, yes, we have been through the minefield, and we ship direct from Germany to end user. Okay, there you go, Nick. So yeah, and yes, I don't understand the lovely CA. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Nick, that's pretty much we've hit the nail on the head on that one. Direct to end user becomes very only because they don't want to act as the importer of record, and therefore they feel. And this is the thing. And again, you can challenge this as much as you like, and people don't understand what the importer of record. Importer of record doesn't mean they got to pay anything. It just means they've got to act as the owner of the goods. So you could technically, I mean, if you had an end user who is a delivery point, if they were accepting the importer of record, you could still pay the VAT and duty, but they are the importer of record. But the companies don't like doing that, and for some reason, it becomes a bit of a minefield because everyone thinks, so if I put my name on it, I'm going to be liable for it. So depending on who the company is, if it's somebody that you know and someone you've got a good relationship with. Now, I don't know if anybody here is doing things like yacht spares. You know, we do a contract that we take yacht spares all over Europe. And you can imagine that these boats, which are way out of my price range, probably not yours now, Chrissy. You could probably afford one.
No, I don't think so. Be nice,
but these guys, they have super yachts all over the Med, and you know we have to ship goods to them. So what happens is you'll probably have like a handling agent that will act as the importer of record, but the company that's actually selling them would still pay the VAT. So there are ways round it, but it's very tricky, and yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. Germany to end user delivery address can be different to the consignee. Doesn't have to come to you. Okay, that's the one big misconception of the UK is the goods do not have to come to your premises for you to be the importer of record. That's not how it works. We have to do the entry at the port. So when the entry comes in, the entry's done, the goods can be delivered to anywhere they want. So you can still have end user, but just make sure that the paperwork is in your name.
Any other questions?
Any others? If anyone's asking what I'm doing tonight, I'll be watching the Man City Real Madrid game. If anyone else is watching that. No.
I would actually like to say thank you very, very much for bearing with us. We had a few technical problems at the start, which threw us right off course. But thank you for your patience, and yeah, thanks for bearing with us.
Any more questions up there, Christine?
Is that Anita at the end?
Oh, Anita, will the slideshow be available afterwards?
Yes,
of
definitely.
course. I can do you a separate slideshow if you want, Anita. Just tell me what you need. I can send you the PSP calendar slideshow. Actually, we don't have one, but if we did, I would. I think there was there another question about rates? Yeah.
Yes. How long can rates be held for?
Okay, the most common question is everyone asks is, right, I've got a job and it's coming up in 6 months' time. How can I guarantee that the rates are still going to be applicable? Well, it depends where you're coming from, okay? So European rates are going to be stable across. So if you're dealing with Europe, they're not going to change too much in 12 months. So do not worry. A trailer rate and pallet rate will be, it'll be quite solid, okay? Chinese rates, as you've seen by the graph, they do go throughout the year. They go up and down, but we think the worst is over. So we're not expecting the highs of 10,000, 20,000 anymore. As far as securing rates, everyone's very, very nervous in the shipping world. Nobody wants to go any further forward than 30 days. That doesn't mean that you can't ask for a rate for a year, but you would need some kind of commitment. So if you like have a regular trade route and you want to lock in a rate to protect yourself, and let's just get one thing out there, really. Contracts in the shipping world, they don't really exist, okay? But they do when it comes to allocation. So when you go to an airline or a shipping line, if you commit to a certain amount, that they charge you for it, but they will give you a rate. So can you lock in a rate? Yes. How do you get that rate? By volume. But if you don't have the volume, it is better to play the game as you go along. So always check what the most current rate is. And the biggest one would be the air freight rates. Air freight rates could go from 1 week to another, but I'm guessing if most of you are keeping away from air freight purely because we all know how expensive it is. So yeah, that's what I would suggest on a shipping rate.
One last question. How busy does it get in the cheaper months, March and April?
Well, it doesn't, and that's pretty much why you see the dip in the rates, because the vessels are empty. You know, when they all go home for Chinese New Year, for instance, it all shuts down for about 3 weeks. So on that first build up after Chinese New Year, they're really trying to push exports. So they'll offer you a cheaper rate, get you in on the vessels. So it's actually a really good time to do your shipping.
If you've got the storage space.
If you've got storage, but look, it's the Chinese, they're not, they know what times of year we all need it for, and that's going to be towards the end. And so that's why you always pay a premium, which for anyone that's been dealing with China, peak season surcharge, it used to be called. Now it's just called a surcharge. So yeah, we'll do that. I think, is there any more? I don't think there's any more.
If you think of anything later on, this is my costing. I'm Chrissie Capel. We're at PSP Worldwide Logistics. Just give us a shout. We're happy to help with any questions that you think of later on, or you need any help or advice.
Anita, Germany have recently changed regulations. We are now getting requests from UK Customs for information that is on documents. Interesting. Okay, so I'd like be keen to know what UK Customs. We are now getting requests from UK Customs. So I wonder what regulations. I mean, we're not the actual process into Germany is pretty much the same. And UK Customs doesn't really regulation. UK Customs has no. You see, this is the thing. The two customs don't have any influence on each other. So if UK Customs are asking for it, it will be for UK Customs related information. And the German customs will be separate. So they don't tend to sort of link. There's no way that they would be wanting. So the UK customs, if they're looking for information, it will be about the goods that have come in from Germany, and it will be about the values, the codes. It will be something about what you're paying here. It won't be about what the German regulations are. They're two separate entities. So you wouldn't be able to solve a UK problem here when it comes to Germany. So just be mindful that if the UK customs are asking for it, it's a UK problem, not a German problem. It could be that they need some kind of statement on there, maybe. I don't know. Let's have a look. So yes, all that information on documents, we import goods from EU to end user on our. There you go. So Anita's already delivering to the end user using her EOR number. So we import goods from EU to direct. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we were saying earlier. You don't have to deliver the goods to yourselves. You can deliver direct, but you need to make sure it's in your name. And I guess more importantly, you don't want any of the documents from the supplier as well. So make sure your supplier doesn't put their details on the pallet. If it's going to your client, the last thing you want is your client knowing where it's come from. So that's one of the biggest fears that most people have when they direct deliver, is if the customer gets hold of the importer's details, they could technically go direct. So let's just, but yeah, no, that's brilliant. I mean, that saves you money, it saves an extra handling cost, and also saves time. So yeah, nice one. I totally agree with that. And yeah, Nita, if there's anything on that Germany regulations, do give us a shout. Reach out if you need to. I'd be keen to know what they're asking for, because we get this all the time about people asking for new information. And you know what? The next time round, they won't ask for it again. So, but yeah, just going back on the UK side, it will be a UK issue, not a Germany issue. Right. Anything else before? Okay, any more from there, Chrissie?
No, I think we are finished. Unless there's anyone else, anyone with a last minute question.
For a last minute question before we close off. If you need anything, look us up. Chrissie and I, we're both on LinkedIn. You can fire us a message. We're always available. Look, if it's just advice you need, give us a shout. If there's any documents, or if anyone's asking you anything that doesn't seem right, then always reach out. We're here to help. We are a member of the Automate Group. The reason that we are a part of this group is to help other members. It's not here for the big push, the big sale. So you do have a freight company within the membership group that you can ask questions to, and you can ask us for advice. So I think that's about it now for us. So yeah, I'd like to say thanks again for everyone. Thank you again for putting up with the delay. I hope we haven't, and if there's anything else that you need, please get in contact, and hope to see you all again soon, the entire new year.